Here we go. Welcome, everyone. I see lots of you are joining. We are going to start this town hall now. This is a Zeteo breaking news town hall, because some of you may have heard by now that Yahya Sinwar, the leader of Hamas in Gaza, the leader of the Hamas Politburo, is dead, killed by Israel. We're hearing that it wasn't an intentional strike. They weren't targeting him with some intelligence, but he was killed in some kind of battle in a building that was triggered. I'm just looking at the latest stuff that my producers are giving me, that the Israeli military claimed 3 terrorists were killed in a building. When they investigated, they did DNA tests. They confirmed it was Yahya Sinwar. It's a big deal a year in. Let's not underplay it. So we thought we would have a town hall to explain what it all means. And who better to talk about it with than my good friend Jeremy Scahill, co-founder of Drop Site News, my former colleague at The Intercept, which he also co-founded. He's also been interviewing Hamas leaders this year and talking to Hamas a lot. So he knows what's going on. And of course, Rula, who you've all seen many times here before, Zeteo contributor, foreign policy analyst. She's on her way to Italy. I think I can share that with you, where she's in all sorts of political and legal battles. She's also a citizen of Israel, as you know. Last time, Rula, let me start with you. We spoke last time. We talked about Sinwar. We talked about what was going on with Nasrallah and the killing of Nasrallah. What's your reaction to this news, just initially?
I mean, it's predictable. They were looking. Can you hear me?
Go. We've got you.
Okay. I mean, the two things that come to mind, Sinwar was not in a tunnel. They killed him in a building. They always claimed that they had to blow up entire neighborhoods because the leadership was in tunnels. He was not in a tunnel. It was a random exchange of fire. This is when he was killed. It shows that they did not need to blow up 85% of Gaza in order to find Sinwar. And one of the things, I think Netanyahu killed the man that he released in 2011, the man that he knew was a violent man, the man that he knew never killed Israelis until he was released and he was killing Palestinians, the man that he decided that he would lobby Qatar and others to finance him and keep him in power to thwart a Palestinian state. He propped up the leadership of Hamas to weaponize, to say, I cannot not basically lift the siege on Gaza or end the military occupation because there's these Hamas people, these terrorists. So he invented basically a propaganda and a tool on weaponized Hamas to keep the occupation. And now he's killing everybody. He will claim victory probably. Yeah. And will go on a victory round saying, you know, you told me not to go to Rafah, but I had to go to Rafah and I had to kill him. But this will not end the war, because the war that Netanyahu is waging is not on Sinwar and Hamas. Netanyahu is waging a war on the Palestinian people, and that needs to be clear now, not only on the Palestinians, at this point also on the Lebanese people.
Well said. And Rula's in the back of a cab, but still dealing out pearls of wisdom from her taxi ride. Thank you, Rula. You guys who are watching, everyone in the chat, we are taking questions from subscribers. Put your questions in the chat. I'm going to try and take as many as we can. We have till just before 3 p.m. Eastern. Jeremy, your initial reaction when you heard the news of the Sinwar killing?
Well, you know, in many ways, we should really be focusing on the fact that Netanyahu systematically sabotaged any ceasefire deal. Certainly since July 2nd, when Hamas told international mediators they had accepted the framework of the Biden ideas for how to achieve a ceasefire. And this is indicative of a scorched earth policy that has been about mass killing of Palestinians, total destruction of the infrastructure of Gaza. And while the Israelis are celebrating the killing of Yahya Sinwar, 76 years of history of colonialism, of apartheid, of oppression, of sanctions, of targeted killing, of mass killing, cries out that this is not how you eliminate the Palestinian resistance, including the armed resistance. What history tells us is that when Israel kills the leaders of the moment, many more rise up in their place. And so while you have President Biden, Vice President Harris praising this, Biden, in fact, saying U.S. Special Operations Forces and U.S. intelligence have been assisting Israel for the past year in trying to hunt down Yahya Sinwar. And maybe the White House views this as an opportunity to say to Netanyahu, here's the off-ramp, declare victory. The reality is Benny Gantz, supposedly the opposition, his response to the reports that Yahya Sinwar was dead is to say it's not over and Israel is going to be operating in Gaza for many years to come. So, Israel is certainly going to celebrate this, but history indicates that the Palestinians are going to continue their resistance, whether there's a man named Yahya Sinwar walking the earth or there's a group named Hamas present in Gaza. That's just historical fact.
And we've seen that in the early 2000s when they killed Rantisi, they killed Ahmed Yassin, the founders of Hamas. Hamas didn't go away. They killed Ahmed Jabari. Hamas didn't go away. They killed Ismail Haniyeh this summer. You can't, as even Israeli security officials have pointed out, Jeremy, you can't just kill an idea or an ideology. You can't kill the conditions which create these people. Well said. Jeremy, you mentioned hostages. The Hostages and Missing Families Forum says in a video statement today that the lives of the hostages, they believe, are in more danger now than ever before. They're worried that, Hamas fighters might take revenge by executing the remaining hostages. Obviously, there's no one really to negotiate with. If you really do care about negotiating a deal, you killed Haniyeh and now you kill Sinwar. So who does Israel even negotiate with? What do you make of the fate of the hostages now with this move today?
Well, I mean, Netanyahu, many, many months ago, maybe even from the beginning, Mehdi, when you had this brief truce last November when there was an exchange of captives, Netanyahu has made clear that the lives of Israeli citizens present in Gaza in captivity with Hamas are a price worth paying for his agenda, for the total annihilation and potential reoccupation for the long term of Gaza. His forces have repeatedly killed Israeli hostages. The failure to take a ceasefire deal, including one in which Hamas was willing to make significant concessions, I reported on this, others have reported on it, has just shown that Netanyahu was intent on going down in history as the man who obliterated Gaza as a Palestinian land, and he's put that in a far more important place than any of his own citizens' lives.
Yes, he has.
Mehdi, can I?
Yes, please, Rula, go.
Yes, I would like to just say that, because the one thing that should be clear to everyone by now, Netanyahu doesn't measure his victory by how many Hamas leaders he kills. He measures his victory of how many Palestinian people he kills, how many territories he annexed, and how many territories he destroyed. This is how he measures his victory. And you can see that regardless what Sinwar is, represented in the minds of many Israelis, you can see that the Likud party, the party of the prime minister, is hosting actually a conference next week about the reoccupation of Gaza. They already decided the north of Gaza needs to be ethnically cleansed completely, that we have a genocide within a genocide. They want total control of the north of Gaza, and they're ordering the people, and this is a doctrine that an Israeli general called Giora, he decided that he will give the people, the 400,000 people in the north of Gaza, an option: starve or slaughter. Basically, die in one way or another, or you'll leave. Because they decided that they want to occupy completely southern Beirut, but also all of northern Gaza. And I think they see this moment as an opportunity, because there's a vacuum in the United States, political vacuum, with an endorsement, a silent endorsement from the administration. But they're seeing something else, that they're managing to bully the few people who are speaking in Europe into submission. Look at President Macron, how they're basically calling him an anti-Semite today, simply for saying we need to withhold arms, weapons sales to Israel.
So I want to come back to weapons sales, but you mentioned the American political situation. Vice President Harris has made a statement already today saying justice has been served, but also this could be a way to end the war. And Ade Makonnen, I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name, one of our subscribers asks, Rula, Kamala just made a statement as if this is the end of everything. Is it? What do you think?
Maybe for some delusional advisors in the campaign. Either they don't understand what they're dealing with, which makes them incompetent at this point, or they are not, or they're misleading the public opinion in the United States. This is not the end. This is the beginning. The killing of Sinwar and Haniyeh and the killing of whoever they want, or even Nasrallah and others, will not stop the plan. The plan is a greater Israel. The plan is ethnic cleansing of Palestinians and total annihilation of Gaza. And to be honest, also of parts of Lebanon. Look at the village they blew up yesterday. It's a village, and they're bombing villages that are, where the Lebanese are not even Shia or Sunni. They're not Muslim. They're Christian. It tells you everything about the delusional, but also the criminal mindset that is residing today in Israel.
So in terms of criminal mindsets, Kamala Harris calls herself a prosecutor, Jeremy. She talks about enforcing the law. Today in her statement, she said justice was served. a prosecutor saying justice was served by an extrajudicial killing. You literally wrote the book on extrajudicial killings. You've talked about how Obama used drone strikes. Barack Obama, the Democratic president before Biden, killed an American citizen, Anwar al-Awlaki, which you reported on more than most people. What do you make of where we are as a country? Some people were joking recently that even George W. Bush condemned the killing of Saleh Shahada by Israel because they killed a few civilians in 2002 or 4, I can't remember which year. Today, we have an entire political class across the West. The UK Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, they all came out and praised the killing of Nasrallah, even though civilians were killed in the process, apartment buildings were leveled, and now they're all going to praise the killing of Sinwar. What happened to, putting people on trial, that old-fashioned notion of justice?
I'm really glad that you brought this up, Mehdi, and there's been very little discussion of this, but the U.S. Has had a practice going back actually to the presidency of Gerald Ford, where there was an executive order prohibiting the United States from engaging in assassination. When Jimmy Carter was president, he slightly amended the language to emphasize also political assassination and to add language that said that agents of the United States government, including its allies, also cannot engage in assassination with U.S. assistance. Here we have President Biden, fast forward to the present moment. Those rules are still governing the executive branch of the United States, although Congress has never, ever wanted to legislate the issue or to even define the term assassination, because the reality is all U.S. presidents have assassinated. What is different now, and Israel certainly has been a pioneer in the field of assassination as a tool of state and industrializing it. What we're seeing now is the macabre fruits of that labor of the United States and Israel normalizing assassination as a central, acceptable component of American and its allies' foreign policies. Look at when they hit Nasrallah in the center of a crowded Beirut suburb. They killed hundreds of other people. Biden didn't mention anything about the civilians killed. Harris didn't mention anything about the civilians killed. They said that this provided some measure of justice for the victims of Hezbollah or Nasrallah. And so what we've seen now is a public that has been conditioned to believe that this is just normal. The fact is that when war criminals commit war crimes, the greatest deterrent from future crimes is holding them accountable and showing that there's a moral high ground. Israel and the United States, by endorsing, conducting, carrying out these assassinations, is saying to all other nations of the world, the rules of the game have changed, and this is acceptable now.
It's so interesting you say that, Jeremy, because, of course, countries like India now pretty much bragging about killing dissidents abroad, right? India, which is, supposed to be a democracy. So when people say, America sets precedents, Israel sets precedents, it's very real. We're not making this stuff up. In fact, let me ask you this question, Jeremy, from one of our anonymous attendees. And guys, I'm trying to get through questions. There's lots of questions. Try and get all of your questions. Do you think Israel's next objective is to target and kill Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran, who they perceive as the head of the snake? Jeremy, is that something that could be? I mean, that would be on a different scale to killing the leaders of Hamas or Hezbollah.
Oh, I think certainly the current Israeli government would love nothing more than to be able to assassinate the supreme leader of Iran. In fact, in the aftermath of Nasrallah's killing, when they had the Friday prayers in Tehran, you had this relatively extraordinary moment where Khamenei appeared publicly in person for those prayers. The last time he had done that was when Donald Trump authorized the assassination of General Qasem Soleimani, the commander of the IRGC, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, in Baghdad. Certainly the Iranians are aware that what is happening here is the United States is helping, endorsing, facilitating Israel torching the entire region and engaging in this spate of assassinations. I would guess that the United States at this point would not support such an assassination because the reactions to it would be unpredictable. But certainly the Israeli state, and you see it in their acolytes in the media, they believe that Khamenei should be taken out. And I'm sure that the Iranians are very, very well aware of that. I wouldn't be surprised if Israel did try to assassinate the supreme leader of Iran. But the consequences, they're going to open a Pandora's box if they do that. It could actually, I mean, many within the axis of resistance, Mehdi, believe that a great war with Israel is inevitable, that those factions have calculated will start a process of the end of the state of Israel. The West can laugh that off or wave it off. You can look at the military superiority of Israel. don't underestimate how much damage Netanyahu and the Israeli state have done to the security of Israel in these actions over the past year.
Plenty of Israeli generals say that. That's the great irony. Rula, Sarel van der Volt, you're heading to Europe right now. Good question here from Sarel van der Volt. The ICC arrest warrants for Hamas leaders are now void, right? Because there were 3 for Sinwar, Daif, and Hania. 2 are definitely dead. The third is people are arguing whether he's dead or alive. How will Israel respond to the arrest warrants for Netanyahu and Gallant, the defense minister, absent the Hamas arrest warrant? Interesting question there. Like Israel has taken out the people that the ICC wanted to try, but the people the ICC or ICC chief prosecutor wants to try on the Israeli side are still very much alive and wandering around free.
Look, I want to also add something regarding, they're not only torching the security of Israel, they're torching multilateral institutions and the rule of law, the global rules, the architecture of rules and laws that regulate conflicts everywhere. They're being dismantled. Netanyahu gave the order to strike Beirut from the headquarters of the United Nations. This is not only unprecedented, he is basically spitting in the face of those institutions. So the ICC, actually what we see on trial today is if those institutions can hold and can in any way can confirm their commitment to the universality of the law. I think the ICC, what Palestine is demonstrating that, for a long time been demonstrating that the West has been managing to get away with so many crimes. Now Netanyahu is so brazen and his government and his ministers. I consume a lot of Israeli media, and the other day they were talking about not only killing Khamenei, they were talking about killing As-Sistani, the most moderate Shia leader. And I was listening to that. I was like, you want to take out the most moderate, most respected, the most beloved Shia leader in Iraq? Actually, the Americans would go to him during the war to actually, ask for his counsel and for his advice. We are dealing with a rogue state that today is drunk on power and drunk on impunity. Jeremy is right. The government, one government after another in Israel, got away with so many crimes, so many massacres since even pre-state from 1948, and they were never held accountable. Think of Ariel Sharon. He went on to butcher people in Beirut. He was called the butcher of Beirut. He came back and he basically continued his rise to become prime minister and continue his career, and he was celebrated. In the end, at this point, I think the real test between the global South and global North, what can be done to bring a modicum of justice in the case of Palestine? And if this doesn't happen, it's not only Israel security is on the line. I think the whole, Western established rule-based international order is gone.
Yes, and your line, drunk on power, drunk on impunity, I think sums it all up. Fantastic line. I'm just wondering what your taxi driver is making of all these wonderful lines that you're delivering us. Let me ask you this, Jeremy. Pranav Ramakantan, I hope I haven't butchered your name, Pranav, Robert Haling, and someone else here, Anas Al-Qadi. A bunch of people, you'll be shocked to hear, are asking the question, Jeremy, and you're the perfect person to ask. What does Hamas do now? Who do they replace Sinwar with? How does it even work? Do they have a plan?
Certainly they have a plan. The thing that people don't necessarily take into account is that these resistance groups, it's not just Hamas, which has the Qassam brigades, which is its military wing, and you have Palestinian Islamic Jihad. They've had decades of experience in guerrilla insurgent warfare, and they have compartmentalized operations. When Nasrallah was killed, there were all these predictions of how Hezbollah was decimated. Well, Hezbollah has been fighting off Israeli ground invasion attempts in the south. You also saw Hezbollah conduct one of its most successful strikes in history on Israel when it hit the Golani military base recently, killing a number of Israeli soldiers, wounding many others. And I think on a tactical level, the Qassam brigades operates as a cell, as multiple cells unto itself. Politically, my guess would be that someone like Khalil al-Hayya, who was a top deputy to Sinwar and is based outside of Gaza, will probably take up the mantle, at least in the interim, speaking politically. Mohammed Sinwar, the brother of Yahya Sinwar, who played a key role in springing Yahya Sinwar from jail and is very important to the military operations on the ground, probably will step into it. But I wouldn't predict that there's just going to be an immediate end to the resistance because of the way that the Qassam brigades are structured. Clearly, this is a major blow to Hamas. There's no question about that. But time and again, we've seen after Israel assassinates Palestinian resistance figures that the resistance continues on. And I think we're going to see that again. Gaza's decimated right now. The Israelis may have killed more than 100,000 people in Gaza. The official statistics are conservative, 40-something thousand right now. And certainly the Qassam brigades have suffered military losses on the ground. But this is a much longer story than just October 7th to the present. And I think we have to keep that in mind.
And Jeremy, Anas Al-Qadi also asked, and I'm sure many people are wondering too, does Hamas respond to this? Does it feel forced? It has to point out, to go back to your earlier point about Pandora's box. Does Hamas go and assassinate an Israeli person now in response? And, and the escalation continues, which people forget how it starts, that Israel is the one that goes and assassinates.
Hamas figures have said in recent months, Mehdi, that you're going to start to see what are called martyrdom operations inside of 1948, Palestine, meaning in parts of Israel, where you have what are commonly called suicide bombings. Right, are what commonly called suicide bombings. You've seen a couple of those take place, but those had largely gone away after Hamas won the elections in 2005 and consolidated power in Gaza in 2006. You saw very few of them happen after that. So it's possible that we're going to start to see some of the tactics that were present in the Second Palestinian Intifada. Hamas does not really have the military capacity right now to strike much inside of Israel. Outside of doing those kinds of operations. It'll be interesting to see how Iran reacts to this, how Hezbollah reacts to this. You just had another round of intense bombing by the United States in Yemen. It feels like we're on the verge of something really incendiary right now in a sea of mass murder by Israel. I do think there will be responses, but on a tactical level, I don't think Hamas has an ability to strike inside of Israel except in those kinds of Second Palestinian Intifada type tactics.
And we are running out of time. Rula, I want to just get through a few more questions.
Yeah.
Guys, we have about 400 people in this chat. We have 52 questions, so I'm not getting through all of them. Forgive me, but I'm trying to pick as many as I can. Evan Ball asks Rula, if the United States does actually restrict or eliminate weapon sales to Israel, which is the demand of Harris, which the Democrats are ignoring, how long could Israel continue their military occupation and domination of Gaza without U.S. support?
This is an American-Israeli war. We've been saying this from day one. Every bomb, every fighter jet, every dumb bomb, every bullet is an American made or made in America. So they can continue, and the war will continue until America continues to supply weapons. But now the Israelis are so emboldened that they want America to fight their wars against Iran and against others. I mean, this administration, I think, has been lying to the American people about the depth of their involvement. But they've been lying about another thing that I think is much more dangerous, about the consequences that we will start seeing against American interests, American citizens, because the radicalization part that is not being discussed, it is massive in the Middle East. The amount of outrage and hatred and desire for vengeance, not only against Israelis, but against America, is skyrocketing. And I think nobody is discussing this in an appropriate manner, because yes, suicide bombers will start happening in Israel. Other people will start being killed. People probably in 1948 will start using the arms that they have. And they have lots of weapons that they bought from Israelis. But also you will see around the region all kind of strikes and all kind of attacks against America's soldiers and American interests.
Jeremy, a lot of people are asking, multiple people, so I'm not going to name them all, how does this end then? If it's not about killing Sinwar, it's not about freeing hostages. Rula talked earlier about taking over land. We've heard about thinning Gaza. How does this end?
I mean, I think the short answer is this won't end until the Palestinians are given their rights and that they have a state, and that Israel is not in control of the calorie intake of the population, and that you don't have apartheid. On a practical level, how does this end in terms of like the next year or so? You see now this idea being floated of bringing in the United Arab Emirates in an Israeli-backed plan to essentially kind of become the occupation on behalf of Israel of Gaza. I don't think that's sustainable. The Palestinian Authority of Mahmoud Abbas has never been less popular, single-digit popularity ratings. If there's a genuine interest in peace in that region, it begins with recognizing that the Palestinians have rights like all other people in the world. It's very, very simple, Mehdi, and it's been simple for many decades. Palestinians have a right to a state. Palestinians have a right to self-determination, and they have a right not to live under apartheid. Our policymakers are whistling past the graveyard, thinking that any small break in this represents a solution. The solution is justice for the people of Palestine.
Yes, they have a right to justice. They also have a right to resistance under international law. Last question to you, Rula. Last word to you. Elizabeth Gemosis. Sorry if I butchered that name. Elizabeth asks, is there any chance that this could be an opportunity to pressure Biden and Harris to pressure Netanyahu? I have to cling to some hope, she says, even if it's slight.
I wish I have hope. I don't think they're willing or capable of pressuring Netanyahu. I believe, and I don't have any data to confirm this. I think Netanyahu, in his meeting with Donald Trump in Mar-a-Lago, after Congress basically cheered him as a hero when the rest of the world want him arrested and on trial for committing war crimes, after he gave the order from the United Nations and nothing happened, after the ICJ ruled on July 2nd that he need to end and dismantle the occupation of the apartheid and nothing happened, I think he really is now trying hard to make Trump win the elections. And whether Biden is helping him directly and indirectly, I don't know. I don't have any elements to say that he is not doing that. But I believe at this point, the policies of the Democrats and policies of the Republicans are all the same. Maybe the lip service towards Michigan and Arab Americans will be a little bit different, but I believe that they are both committed to the ethno-religious state of purity and exclusion and to the greater Israel project.
Well put. I do want to say that thank you to everyone who's asked questions in the chat. There's so many questions still there that we weren't able to get to. I think we're up to nearly 60 questions. I want to thank you both for your answers and for giving us some wisdom on this breaking news days and some context, which is often missing from mainstream media coverage. I would point out Janine de Neves says she's deeply grateful to the years of truth-telling from Jeremy and Rula. So I just wanted to pass that on to both of you. From Janine. And an anonymous person says, Mehdi, can you speak louder? Which no one's ever said to me in my life. People normally tell me to speak less loudly. Thank you all for joining us on this chat. We appreciate all your support. You're all paid subscribers. That's why you're here. You support Zeteo. You support independent journalism. You support people like Rula being one of our contributors who's fantastic. And of course, please do subscribe to Drop Site News, which just launched a few months ago, also on the Substack platform, a fantastic independent media platform from my old colleagues, Ryan Grimm and the one and only Jeremy Scahill. Jeremy, Rula, appreciate you both. Zeteo subscribers, spread the word to your friends about Zeteo and Drop Site News. See you at the next town hall. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Mehdi.
Thank you, Mehdi.
Did you like this video? Don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel and turn on notifications. For exclusive content and to support our independent, unfiltered journalism, head over to Zeteo.com. Your support matters.